I know this is totally out of the box, but can I write my capstone thesis project on my business? And she just like flipped out with joy and was like, yes, we need this, you know, you have to do it. And that was the green light. And so a year ago right now, I was in this pressure cooker of like, I kind of spread through your first, you know, several modules because my thesis was due at the end of March. So everything just lined up, and I was like being shot out of a cannon. I was like, what the heck? So I wrote my paper. It was a giant research undertaking, but basically what it was it, you know, it was me presenting childhood sexual abuse as a public health crisis, that it is, with the research, you know, the staggering statistics, and, you know, going through the impacts of trauma, specifically sexual trauma, and then going over the neurobiology of trauma in depth, and then going through, I included work that I did in your program, the research I did in the paper. And then I went in depth into my recovery pathway that I've created, Trauma to Triumph. And then I was able to include what my program's about and the benefits of it and the impacts and outcomes. So,
and you got your graduate degree, right?
I did.
First things first. Oh my God.
Did. Yeah.
I love these stories. Actually, your story is so similar to mine. I had that same thing where after losing a job, I kept applying and applying and applying to all these jobs that I was like used to, right? Like in my comfort zone. Oh, I'll just get a new job and the same thing. And it kind of was this like obvious sign from the universe where I'm like, well, wait a second, maybe there's some other, because I also knew I wanted to start this is my previous business. And I do believe that very often the universe has these other plans in store for us, and all the signs, you know, sometimes it takes getting whacked over the head, you know, 15 times to finally say like, maybe I'm here for something else, you know? But let's get into this, because you, like everybody, and like me starting my previous business, you went through the ups and downs, right? Like the fears, the doubts, the, you know, limiting beliefs. But then you also I remember when you got your first client, and, you know, you have to remember Maya's doing really deep level work here. You know, this is like, you're dealing with people who have sexual trauma. But how did it feel when you were in the depths of the fear, and then also in the, you know, like finally working with your first client? You know, what is the kind of, describe the difference between the two, and has it been worth it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah. And just to back up a little bit. So before I got my first client, you know, without giving away all your secret sauce, part of the Mastermind program is really investigating your client, right? Who is your client? Interviewing your potential clients. And when I interviewed survivors, it was absolutely transformational. I've talked to a lot of survivors through the last decade because I've done a lot of survivor like retreats and incredible things with other women survivors. But doing this particular process, wouldn't you know, after I interviewed, you know, a certain, you know, lot of women, there were threads of not only similar themes, but like exact verbiage. And these are women from all over the country. And one woman was in India that I interviewed. So what I did is compiled the information. I still have it. It's on these giant whiteboards in my office. But my program was born out of that, you know, speaking directly to these women. And so the fears, for me, it still is. I mean, it's a constant confrontation, right? Of like my own pain and like what I've endured and the anguish that like I've experienced in my own life, and then, you know, holding space for these courageous, incredible women and hearing their stories. So it's like, you know, it's a constant kind of balance of like me taking care of myself and regulating, right? So everything I teach, I do. Literally every single thing that I teach, I do in my own life every day. And so the fear was absolutely coming out as a survivor on a public, visible level. Absolutely. It's been baby steps, but like this program was, you know, my circle of resources, my healed ancestors, like saying it's time. And so there was that fear. And then, you know, the fear of it being sustainable and, you know, unpacking all of those belief systems around having like a predictable, rigid, what we would call conventional living. And so just like unpacking that. So there was just these different areas of fear, not just one area. There was a lot. And then also worthiness, you know, am I worthy of doing this? Do I have something to say? Does what I have to teach really, is it influential? Like, is it going to be impactful? And so not until I had that first client, you know, and I had a couple clients last summer. One was the actual sign up in my program. Another client was a you know, we did a 3-month, which I don't do anymore. I only do the 9-month experience for many reasons. But I had such a tremendous like response from them, and it was like immediate. So I knew that I was on to something. And it's just gotten more incredible.